welcome back to Rating the List, where we review, discuss, and reimagine popular movie lists objectively. We're your hosts, I'm Jerry.
And I'm Brad, and on this episode we'll be exploring number 1 from Sports Illustrated's The Top 50 Sports Movies of All Time.
All right, and number 1 is Bull Durham, released in 1988, directed by Ron Shelton, starring Kevin Costner, Susan Sarandon, and Tim Robbins.
Journeyman catcher Crash Davis is brought onto the roster of the Durham Bulls to provide guidance to erratic but talented pitcher Nuke LaLoosh, along the way falling in love with Annie and chasing the minor league home run record.
I do love this movie.
I do too.
I do. You know why I think I love it is because it's a very it's an equal women's men's movie, right? Because I love Susan Sarandon's voiceover in this movie. It's very poetic, and she's very she knows her baseball, and she really treats it like it's
religion.
It's her religion. It's her job.
Which I totally get, by the way.
Yeah, it's her job to help each team, or help the team, at least one newcomer on the team every year.
It's a little self-serving.
It is a little self-serving, like she's just trying to get some, basically, but she really feels like she's helping these players in whatever way she helps them. So, but it's really good. It's really funny. It's I really like the dialogue.
Yeah, which is a classic Ron Shelton. He writes really good dialogue.
Yeah, it's really good dialogue. Really good. It really puts you on the field. This one, because they do a lot of either they're talking to themselves or they're talking in a group, or it just puts you right there with them.
Yeah, there's a lot of instances where Kevin Costner is up to bat and he's it's in his head, he's bring me some of that weak ass shit meat. Bring it. He's talking to himself, and you do that. If you've ever hit a baseball and you go up there, that's the kind of stuff that's in your head where you're like, okay, this, you're trying to, it's a cat and mouse game. You're trying to figure out what the other guy's going to throw, where he's going to throw it. And there's all of that in this movie. The thing that's always stood out to me with Kevin Costner in this movie is it's a flaw in a lot of baseball movies, which is guys that don't look like they know how to play baseball. And it really comes out in when they're swinging the bat, and Kevin Costner looks like a guy who has swung a bat before. I think the movie that does it best that I've ever seen is that movie Everybody Wants Some, the Richard Linklater movie.
Yeah.
Because every single actor in that movie had to have played baseball at a reasonably high level, at least in high school, but most of those guys played in college too. So they all know how to play ball. So that's if there's one flaw in Bull Durham, it's a lot of the baseball activity doesn't look super great, which is it's not a something I'm saying specifically about this movie. I think a lot of movies are that way. Again, the way a baseball player moves on the field is really kind of unique, and it's hard to fake it.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that kind of gives to aren't they a AAA team? Right?
They are, but I mean, even a AAA player is a professional baseball player.
Right. No, I understand that, but I'm just saying that they could get away with that a little bit more. And to somebody like me, it's not as noticeable. Okay. I do think Kevin Costner, I mean, he's been a baseball player
a few times,
quite a few times in his career.
Even Field of Dreams, he's not a baseball player, but he does play some baseball in it, and he throws a baseball like someone throws it, who knows how to throw it. But the batting, that really gets me, because not only does he bat, but he's his character is a switch hitter, so he's doing it from both sides of the plate, which is increasing the degree of difficulty, and he pulls it off. He looks good doing it.
Yeah, and he's plays this like kind of good baseball player who's been making the rounds in AAA.
This, like, we were talking about, this is my biggest critique of the movie. Again, this is, inside baseball stuff, talking about baseball. But a guy who's a catcher, a switch-hitting catcher, who is approaching the minor league home run record. This is the kind of guy who would be a backup on a major league team. There's no question in my mind that he would be.
Well, he was also sent there to help with...
I know, but he was sent there from, like, another, like, basically, like, it sounded like he wasn't playing anywhere. Like, he was, like, working at, like, a Sears or something kind of situation.
Oh, okay.
So it's like, but to me, this is a guy who would have spent, at the very least, he would have spent significant amount of time in the minors. The catching position of all positions, it's one that they really value the defensive aspect of it, which he seems to handle. He knows how to handle a pitcher. He knows how to call a game. Those are really big things. And a backup catcher basically plays like 1 out of every 5 games. It's like most of the time they come in, it's, there's a night game and then a day game the next day. They will, give the starting, the regular starting catcher a break. Or on a lot of teams, that guy, all he does is catch like one particular pitcher. That's another thing that happens. So I just think he's too good. Like, if he's like approaching, like, I forget what the minor league home run record is, like 448 or something like that in this game. If that guy hit that many home runs in minor league baseball as a catcher, someone would have him on the roster. He just would. But anyway,
it's a really good movie, really well acted. I think this is probably my favorite Susan Sarandon role.
Yeah, she's got great chemistry with both of them, which, should be guess, her and Tim Robbins ended up getting married, so it's obvious there. But not only that, but Tim Robbins and Kevin Costner have great chemistry together,
Yes, they do,
too.
yeah.
And, like, if you've ever played with anyone who's super talented and flaky like that, like, anyone who's been on a team sport has probably played with a Nuke Lelouch. The guy is just like, he's so talented and he's just an absolute flake, and you want to really just grab a bat and beat him over the head with it, because you're just
well, that's kind of how Crash treats him there for a while.
There's nothing worse than like playing with someone who is extremely talented and has a 10-cent head.
Yeah.
It's so like when you're like someone who's just got to like grind and like basically like, just, eke out every little ounce of talent you have to be able to compete. And guys like that who, they roll out of bed and can do the sport. But
well, it's cool because, like, also you can tell, like, Crash, Kevin Costner's character, he tells you exactly like how he feels about this guy, and he tells the guy how he feels about him too.
Yeah.
At first, and then he starts helping him out.
Well, the reason that he helps is I think he recognizes fairly early on that this guy has what it takes. This guy will make a major league roster, and it might just be something that he teaches him that does it.
Right.
And it'll go completely unnoticed in the annals of baseball if this guy like makes it big. But the baseball gods will know.
Yeah. Also, one of my favorite scenes is when they're all on so Tim Robbins' character is kind of struggling, and so Crash goes out there to talk to him on the mound during a game, and then they all go, which
doesn't happen anymore because of the pitch clock, but this used to definitely be a thing where like basically like the entire infield shows up and everyone on the is talking on the mound.
Everybody's having an issue,
and you're like, as a fan, you're like, what the hell are all these guys always talking about?
Yeah.
And then they kind of show like a little bit like on this one, like where it's just like like Nuke's breathing out of his wrong eyelid, which is like one of those like this like mystical shit that Annie had said to
yes.
him. And then like like they're talking like gossiping about one of the other players like sleeping with kind of one of the
or they're getting married, or what are you bringing, what are you getting
for the wedding,
what are you getting them as a present? And
like the coach comes out and he's like candlesticks always make a nice gift, and
they're all like okay,
so it's it's like that stuff. And you always wonder like I've been to plenty of those kinds of mound visits, but you're not generally talking about that. It's usually like if I'm going over like to the mound visit, like I'm usually like I was usually like the tough love guy, which I know is a shock for you.
Yeah.
Where I just basically I go over there and be like, why don't you try throwing a strike, you jackass?
Yeah.
Kind of that's kind of like my role, and someone else it's good, you can do it. To try, every something's gonna like crack the guy, but that scene's really funny, and Ron Shelton played minor league baseball, so he kind of understands the world, and it definitely lends the movie authenticity, even if you don't know anything about the game. It's really fun. I think this movie, of all the movies he's ever been in, really showcases Kevin Costner's strengths as an actor more than anything, because he gets to play a good guy who's got a little bit of an edge, but he's very charismatic and charming, and that kind of really works for Kevin Costner.
I was telling Brad this when we were watching the movie. I think that this is the one movie of all his baseball movies where he's really sexy and like attractive in this movie because of the way he presents himself, I think. But I could see why Annie would be like smitten with him,
Well, that's the thing too. It's like Nuke's a boy, Crash is a man, and like she's got this like this kind of way of life where she only chooses the one guy, and she happens to choose Nuke, and Crash is like I don't want to be with someone who wants to be with that boy, basically. He says it just like that, and then over the course of it, it's like they both realize that they want to be together, and there's just like
they're like an equal match.
They're an
to
equal
each
match
other
in a lot of ways, and I think they both kind of see a future and that kind of thing, and that's kind of fun.
Yeah, it's a fun time. It's a good movie. It's got a lot of good heart in it, and it feels, this is gonna sound really dumb, but it feels very baseball to me. Like it kind of hones in on what it means to be a baseball player, and that sometimes they do have a good time. It's not just because they're getting paid to do it. They actually enjoy what they do. So
I gave this one a 77. Jerry gave it an 86. The list scores 81.5. So this was number one. So this completed our list.
Yay!
So the next several videos are going to be, first we're going to re-rank the list. So we're going to re-rank these 50 based on the scores that we gave and see how that plays out. And then we are going to create our own list, which is, it'll be based on some of the movies that are on this list, plus stuff that we watch on the side. We watched roughly 50 other sports movies. We're trying to squeak in a few more. So, by that time we'll have a pretty large pool of movies to choose from and re-rank that way. And then after this list, we have a new little list project, which is we're going to be rating each other's lists.
yes, like we'll each do a top 20 of our own lists, and then we'll watch the movies together, and then I will be critiquing or re-ranking Brad's list, and Brad will re-rank my list. I think that should be kind of fun.
Yeah, so we've already chosen our top 20s. There's not a ton of crossovers, so we won't have a bunch of episodes where we're doing the same movies.
We have a few, but not a
few.
lot.
Like, I think there's just like 3.
Yeah.
So that'll be fun to kind of experience, you know, the movies that she loves and the movies that I love, and kind of talk about them a little bit.
Yeah. So stay tuned for that. That's coming up pretty soon. So if you have any questions or want to make any comments, please do so in the comment section. If you like what you're doing and you're interested in maybe seeing our own personal list ranks, please subscribe to our channel. If you want to reach us directly, please do so at ratingthelist@gmail.com. But for now, I'm Jerry.
I'm Brad.
And we're rating the list. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.